Hi, everybody. Let's get into the Black History fact of today. We're going to be talking about Claudette Colvin, who actually was the first woman that refused to give up her seat. Um, yeah, it wasn't Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks just kind of like put the nail in the coffin and really excelled the boycott. Okay, so before Rosa Parks, Claudette was a 15-year-old black girl. She refused to give up her seat on a Montgomery, Alabama bus in 1955, a year before Parks' famous act of defiance. Okay, all right. She is also an activist and she also was a pioneer in the civil rights movement in Alabama during the 1950s. Okay. Let's get into a little bit about her. Okay. Claudette or Miss Claudette is a civil rights activist who, before Rosa Parks, refused to give up her seat to a white passenger. She was arrested and became one of the four plaintiffs in the Broder versus Gale, which ruled that Montgomery's segregation bus system was unconstitutional. Colvin later moved to New York City and worked as a nurse aide. She retired in 2004. Okay. She was born on September 5th, 1939, in Montgomery, Alabama. Growing up in one of Montgomery's poorer neighborhoods, Colvin studied hard in school. She earned mostly A's, so she was very scholastic in her classes and aspired to become president one day. On March 2nd, 1955, Colvin was riding home on a city bus after school, and when a bus driver told her to give up her seat to a right passenger, she refused, saying, "It's my constitutional right to sit here as much as that lady. I paid my fare. It's my constitutional right." Colvin felt compelled to stand her ground. Okay, she felt like she was pushed down on one shoulder, and Harriet Tubman was pushing down on the other, saying, "Sit down, girl. I was glued to my seat," she later told Newsweek. Okay, so she ended up getting arrested due to this defiance for violating segregation law. So after her refusal to give up her seat, she was arrested on several charges, including violating the city segregation laws. For several hours, she sat in jail, completely terrified. She said, "I was really afraid because you just don't know what white people might do at this time," Colvin later said. After her minister paid her bail, she went home where she and her family stayed up all night out of concerns of possible retaliation, because we all know history: throwing stuff in people's windows, burning people's houses down, coming into people's property, pulling them out of their property and unaliving them, beating them, essaying them, all of that, their stories. Okay. The National Association for Advancement of Colored People briefly considered using Colvin case to challenge the segregation laws, but they decided against it because of her age. She also had become pregnant, and they thought an unwed mother would attract too much negative attention in a public legal battle. Her son Raymond was born in March of 1956. In court, Colvin opposed the segregation law by declaring herself not guilty. The court, however, ruled against her. Why am I not surprised? And put her on probation. Despite the light sentence, Colvin could not escape the court of public opinion. The once quiet student was branded a troublemaker by some, and she had to drop out of college. Her reputation also made it impossible for her to find a job. Okay. Now, this Broder versus Gale situation, there was four plaintiffs involved with this. Due to the pressure from outside forces, a lot of them end up pulling out of it. The decision in the 1956 case, which had been filed by Fred Gray and Charles D. Langford on behalf of the African American woman, ruled that Montgomery's segregated bus system was unconstitutional. 2 years later, Colvin moved to New York City, where she had her second son, Randy, and worked as a nurse aide at a Manhattan nursing home. She retired in 2004. Okay. Now, her legacy continues to go on. Much of the writing on civil rights history in Montgomery has focused on the arrest of Parks, aka Rosa Parks, another woman who refused to give up her seat on the bus 9 months after Colvin. While Parks has been given that position of spearheading it as a civil rights heroine, Colvin's story has received little notice. Okay, some have tried to change that. All right. Rita Dove penned the poem Claudette Colvin Goes to Work, which later became a song Philip Hughes also wrote about her in the young adult biography Claudette Colvin, Twice Towards Justice. While her role in the fight to end segregation in Montgomery may not be widely recognized, Colvin helped advance civil rights efforts in the city. Claudette gave all of us moral courage. If she had not done what she did, I am sure that we would have been able to mount the support for Mrs. Parks, her former attorney, Fred Gray told Newsweek. So that is your Black History fact of the day. And it's important to highlight, pioneers. Oftentimes the people that start movements, they don't get a lot of attention, and there's someone that comes further along that maybe has more clout or more pull. For whatever the reason, society gravitates towards them and is listening, and they bring awareness to the situation. But it's important to accredit everyone from start to finish, everyone that is a part of any type of movement, period. I think that's what the takeaway is from here. So that's your history fact.